Hey guys, welcome back to another Exile podcast. I'm your host with Brooks and Cory Raley, and this is Nyland Falkenberg.
Nyland's a wildlife biologist, but he also wears a bunch of different hats. So it'll be fun to dive in and learn more about it.
Stay tuned. Hey guys, thanks for jumping back on with us with the Exile podcast. We're here with Nyland Falkenberg, and just super pumped to do this one. You got so much experience in your field and guided and hunted all over. So I wanted to introduce you and bring you on here.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really been looking forward to this. It'd be exciting to talk to y'all and visit with y'all. Y'all got a lot of interesting things going on, so it should be fun.
Yes.
So I guess the first thing is, as a kid, I was just absolutely obsessed with hunting. Anything outdoors that I could do. We had some fishing ponds at the top of a hill behind my grandparents' house. And it went from starting out there riding a go-kart or a four-wheeler with my cousins to the top and, begging to go fishing. And, started with fishing and hunting rabbits and everything else to growing up. And, as you evolve and look into things, it's just like when I started hunting deer, I would literally at night say prayers to hope that I killed a big buck. Right. I think I went through a pretty...
Haven't we all?
Yeah.
Come on, big buck.
I think we went through a pretty rough stretch growing up in Canepa, Texas.
Yeah.
Wasn't the deer capital, big deer capital of the world. And
just north of it.
Yeah.
Just missed it by a few 50 miles or so.
I always told my dad and granddad, I was like, why didn't y'all get settle somewhere else further south? Why'd you settle in farm country?
Yeah.
But
that's funny.
It was a tough row to hoe to kill a big deer. But over time, I kind of figured it out at home. It's just I went from, I didn't even have feeders, really. I would go feed them every day after school. I'd get my granddad to come pick me up from school, and I would drive around on a four-wheeler and go feed all my spots, where it was my bow spot or my rifle spot, and welded my own tree stands and made my own tree stands. And probably wasn't the best job. It was a welding job, but I was
about
all
120
in.
pound stops.
Exactly. Tried to kill myself a couple of times. One night I fell out of my tree stand. I was getting down and my chain broke, and I'll never forget I was falling in this tree stand. I just threw all my gear when I was falling, and the last branch hung my leg, and I was hanging there upside down. And to this day, should have broken my neck, but
that tree got you.
It got me. So I get home.
Thanks
I'm hobbling.
for being here.
Yeah, exactly. I got my hand. I was bloody when I got home, and everybody was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I fell." Yeah, so, but no, and just had this burning desire to be outdoors. That was my main deal. Anything I could do to be outdoors, I was all about it. It really didn't matter what I did, and I would say my granddad and dad were both a big part of it. My granddad probably fueled it a little bit more. Like I said, he would pick me up after school. He would take me. Any chance I could get to go, he would help me go. Right. And my dad and him, they both farmed. So, they would drop me off, and they would, early in the mornings, I would go wake them up to take me hunting and drop me off and back and forth. And it was a pretty intense deal.
So, obviously early childhood into hunting, but know a lot about farming. So how did you get, you went to A&M biology major, kind of walk us through the plan and what you wanted to do.
In high school, I went to my parents and I told them, I was like, man, I want to be a wildlife biologist. I'd obviously been into hunting so much and outdoors. That was my main passion. I think my mom thought I was crazy when I did that, and was like, are you sure that's what you wanted to do? And I went to A&M Kingsville and the Range and Wildlife program, and started there. And as I went there, I went to work for a pretty good-sized ranch, and had some connections there that I worked through college while I was there. And then after college, I left Texas A&M Kingsville. I was still guiding, still hunting and stuff every chance I could get, while I was going to college. Mm-hmm. But then I went to grad school and got my master's and PhD at A&M. Right. And I kind of changed up a little bit. I went more a little ag, a little wildlife as well, just to be a little bit more diverse, to have my background. I had some pretty good indications and mentors along the way to say, hey, be as diverse as you can be. Yeah. Never did I dream it would turn into all this, what it's turned into. Yeah. But with A&M, I mean, it opened a lot of doors for learning the whole gamut of an outdoor industry.
Right.
I mean, from the farming side of it to the hunting side, to habitat, I mean, knowing all the plant species, knowing the chemicals to spray, brush management, and all that. It just kind of all pieced together and tied together.
And to be honest, I would say that ranch management as a whole has kind of become its own art in the last, 20 years or so?
You nailed it. I mean, that's exactly it, Brooks. I mean, it's one of those things where it's evolved and it's become used to, it was just people wanted to come and kill a big deer in South Texas.
Right.
And now it's evolved into everybody wants to have a place where they can hunt deer, they can hunt turkey, they can hunt quail, they can have their duck ponds. We work with fisheries and establishing ponds, building ponds, doing habitat management. These places, a lot of times when you get them, I mean, they're grown up in brush and you can't even drive down the roads. Yeah. And so we'll go in there, open the roads up, we'll mott the brush up. We establish senderos. We establish, just different habitat practices where you can drive around. When somebody owns a ranch, they can actually see into their property and see the animals. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, if they don't do that, they'll drive around their property and never see anything.
Yeah.
And we lay it out too, a little bit more of, where to lay out, how to set up your feeding stations and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I know you were fascinated by some of the dynamics of, what creates value on land and why guys get into deer hunting to begin with and stuff like that. So
yeah. You always hear you got to find a place with good water on it, and I think just from talking to you about it, there's so many more aspects of it that matter whenever you're trying to grow deer herds and do some of that.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's just like going into it. I mean, water is such a crucial deal in South Texas. I mean, just speaking in South Texas and in general, animals have to have water.
Yeah.
And doing what we do with the habitat management and so on and so forth. And, we can go into habitat management just on its own. We can do shredding, mulching, roller chopping. There's a wide gamut of things that you can do to help your property. Mm-hmm. And, and then turning into that, developing food plots and so on and so forth. Like now, I mean, there's a lot of people developing their own food plots, putting in pivot systems, establishing our water systems where water is diverse across the whole property. And then in turn, you tie in your pivots where you have, your dove fields, which tie into all your bird species and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But as well as, when you establish these areas and do all this habitat management, you're helping all the species.
Yeah.
A lot of my main guys, they're more into quail than they are deer. And it's not just hey, we want to kill a big deer anymore on the ranch. Well, but when you manage for quail, you're actually helping your deer herd as well.
So is that more terrain management, like roller chopping and stuff like that, or is it surrogated? What are you kind of leaning into more than not?
We've done the surrogator program where you go in and you put the baby chicks inside the box and release them and everything from start to finish. I think we started at 2 to 3 day old chicks. We would put them in the box and do the surrogator program in the past. We had pretty good success with it, but it seemed like they didn't survive as well when the native quail had problems as well. Rain and all those factors were such crucial. Mm-hmm. It's more now establishing your habitat and establishing grass. If I had one thing that I would say, hey, this is my go-to that we go to, is we open up those areas, whether it's mulching, roller chopping, spraying it, with different, now we're spraying with helicopters and going in there and, with GPS, and you can virtually mod it up and lay it out exactly how you want to with GIS and all that now. Yeah. But what we do is try to promote grass production. So once we establish grass production, that's a big tool in having water tied into those areas. Once we establish water and have our water lines run where we feel like there's enough ample water in all those areas where they can survive, and once you start, if we ever get some rain in South Texas, it kind of goes hand in hand there.
Gotcha. No, that's fascinating. Well, I mean, let's talk about what everybody already wants to know. But when you've developed so many ranches, you have clients from, probably 800 acres up to 20,000 acres. But when it comes to developing a deer herd, what would you? I'm going to give you a hypothetical. But what would you rather inherit? Something that has never produced, big deer or whatever. Not so they don't have them, but they're not consistently having them, or a place that's kind of got the deer, but maybe they're overpopulated and we got to kind of get our numbers back. But each of them have their own challenges, and if terrain's not right, and et cetera. But would you like a really big place or is they're kind of a middle ground, 1,000 acres, 2,000 acres? That's kind of like the honey hole, what you would suggest.
Going into it, I mean, each place is so diverse, and each place has its own set of challenges. I mean, what you just said is it's a tough deal. I like starting with something completely scratch from bottom floor up, and we just took on one a couple of years ago that, I mean, it had never. I mean, the road system was horrible. I mean, it was much less. We couldn't even get to the house hardly where it was because it was so grown up with brush. Mm-hmm. But starting from scratch is really the key, in my opinion. I mean, we go any different way. I mean, like some people have a great footprint already established, and it's really just to add on to it, and they're missing a few steps in there. Right. A lot of people, have a good plan, but they don't act it out. This right? whole deal, yeah, exactly. This whole deal is about discipline and patience and developing a program. I mean, it's really no different than anything in life. Once you establish your goals, you need to stick to that process, and generally you're going to reap the benefits. Obviously, Mother Nature throws some kinks in it for all of us, and that we have to deal with, and problems that we have to handle. Right. But for the most part, if you stick the course, you do well. Yeah. But following up with it, I mean, I really enjoy, top to bottom, starting from scratch, because you develop, and it's more self-worth to the landowner, to yourself, to know that you established it and you did it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And you shake that hand at the end of it like, hey, this is awesome.
Exactly.
How long does it take, just say a completely raw place to like maybe a place, like you said, that may need a couple touch-ups? Like what's the time period of roughly growing some deer? I know you can like expedite it by getting some genetics and stuff, but what would you say, like from a raw place to someone that just kind of needs a touch up?
And you're talking about the deer side
frame.
of it?
Yeah, time frame. Yeah, on the herd and everything.
There's one right now. We're at year 6, and I just found 288 class deer dead in tanks last week. So, and that one started from scratch, and that was really no introduction to genetics. That was just pretty much natural management and around the Batesville area. Yeah. And they did really I mean, it did really well. We counted 62 coveys of quail out of the helicopter. Wow. And just flying in a helicopter survey. Yeah. So it was cool. That was at year 6. You see that. Other places, Cory, I mean, it can be from 2 to 6 as well in there, where you can get into that program where it's like, okay, hey, if we just do this, we can get ahead on things. The feed side of things, people go back and forth with feed. It's just like, I need to feed, I don't need to feed. Feed is important, and you got to have feed when it's readily available, but it's mainly important just to establish your genetics and your age class structure on deer.
Let me ask this leading question. I'm a person that wants to buy land eventually too, but do people see things more of as an investment? Do they see it as a family place? Like for me, it would be all the above, right? How can I improve a raw piece of land? Build a little house, have vacations down there, family down there during the hunting season, but also create value in the habitat creation, et cetera. So it's kind of a long, kind of progressive plan. But I think most people are like interested in that.
Yeah, with what I do is, first of all, I sit down with the landowner and talk about their goals. Each person has a different set of goals, and what y'all two may have is privately may be totally different from each other's. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the hardest thing you have to go through and navigate when doing this. I mean, is first of all, listening to the people, what type of goals they have for their property. And nowadays, it's changed so much from what it used to be. Used to, I would say it was more on the commercial side. Everybody wanted to sell a hunt and try to provide enough, animals where they can make money. And now with the market and I guess going into the price of animals and what feed costs are and stuff like that, I think that's where a lot of people started supplementing their herds. So the guys that wanted to make more money off of it, they're trying to supplement it and run it as a business. Mm-hmm. But most of the people that I deal with now are more private landowners. They're family. It's just groups of people that they want it for their family and friends to be able to enjoy. Right. And like I said before, they want to enjoy every aspect of it. They want to come and use their ranch as a 365-day property. Right. They don't want to have it as they come in 6 times a year and that's it. I mean, I guess would say maybe with COVID that started a little bit of it with the travel and people wanting to enjoy the outdoors more. But I would say now more people enjoy it from a family aspect, Brooks, than they do from the commercial.
And commercial,
and just people still sell hunts and do all that, absolutely. But it's more now where people would say, hey, I want to sell X amount of hunts, but I still want X amount where I can take my family and enjoy it with my friends.
Right.
And that's where I come in, is regulating the population and come in and tell you, say, hey, this is where we're at, and this is where we need to stay.
Yeah.
And it's like growing big deer is everybody wants to know about deer all the time, but you have to have that age structure there to be able to support it. And to be able to, from your side of it, if you wanted to say, hey, I want to have recreation, plus I want to be able to make a little bit of money.
Yeah.
But, also going into that, I mean, you talk about the dove side aspect of things. Right. Now it's like establishing sunflower fields on all these properties with,
irrigation and
exactly. I mean, it's just like now they're sunflower fields are run like a full-time farm virtually. And, what it takes to make sure that they're right and attract the birds and have the fields set up in the right way. It's a lot more to it than people realize. Like it's an art to lay out a field in the right way, to have it where people don't
places and flyways and water and all the sources.
Exactly.
That's why it's kind of nice to like start from zero, because then you don't have to work with like, that's kind of a little screwed up there.
Exactly. And it's like laying out a quail system. If I go in, you want to have pathways where the birds have escape routes, but also too where it's huntable access, where there's grassland, where people can run their dogs and enjoy time and walk through, and have areas where it's like they can be picked up on the next road, but also in there where you have feeders set up to water systems and so on and so forth.
Support, accessible, all the things that actually have a plan. Right?
Exactly.
Versus just like, let's go out in the field.
Exactly. Let's go. Exactly. And
that way.
They look like they're over there.
It's like we had one, and we were flying it the other day and talking about it. And when we got the place, there was not one turkey on it. And in this place, we flew it the other day, and we counted 122 turkeys on it. So, I mean, just in that, just the habitat management, it affects so many different factors of, when like all the quail guys will say, when you're managing for quail, it directly impacts your turkeys. Plus, it also has a direct benefit on your deer herd as well.
That's really cool. So, you have your meeting, you're discussing goals. Let's talk about the relationship, because people also oftentimes like, people step on each other's toes. Talk about the relationship between range managers and their role in it, which you've been that person, and also a biologist, and how it all intertwines and the relationship there.
Man, that's probably one of the tougher things to navigate. It's more about having a connection with a landowner. Everybody always wants to think, oh, that guy does the same thing as you do, y'all compete. It's really not like that at all. I really don't feel like I compete with anybody. It's like most of my landowners, they become friends is what it's become. I have a very direct relationship with them. They know my family. They know, so on and so forth with that. We go out and eat dinner.
Shared meals. I'm about to say you're at the lodge all the time.
Exactly. I'm during hunting season, I'm probably closer to them than I am my family or whatever. So, but with that, it's really not. And it's just you're not out there trying to cut the next guy's throat or whatever because he does what you do. But it's once you develop a bond with somebody, and it goes back to those goals, and it's like you've achieved something together, and you have a relationship and you have a bond. And with that being said, it's probably the most crucial thing in this whole management process that you can have is once you have a relationship with somebody and they have trust in you and you have trust in them, and because they're putting a lot of money into their property. This is a big business. Everybody always thinks it's like, hey, we're just going down my buddy's place to go hunt. Well, what land prices cost and everything now, it's just not like that. This is a business. It's a investment over time. Right. And most people, I guess, don't understand that probably so much because they don't know really what all the steps are and what it takes to get all this stuff to this point. And it's funny now, it's like most of the landowners, you have big deer and all this other stuff. They really don't even go hunt them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more about them enjoying the property and seeing them and taking pictures now. I mean, probably the biggest problem I have is like, hey, we need to kill some more deer. And, and they not wanting to do it.
Right.
And,
Because they just enjoy kind of getting in the blind or driving around and be like,
exactly. And when they can drive around their property and see quail and go shoot a limited dove that evening, and then, hey, their kids want to go duck hunting the next morning, and, you have all that access to your property, it changes how they view it. And that's probably one thing that I focus on and take pride in the most is trying to make it where they have everything available to them.
Right.
Let's face it, it's job security for me.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big job security. It's like if their wife enjoys coming down and she can see the animals and, and their kids can go have fun, and, and the husband, can bring his friends or business executives down here with them.
It's an enjoyable experience every time they go.
Every time they have fun. Why wouldn't you want to go back?
Yeah,
exactly.
And
well, yeah, let's obviously all that's unbelievable. We could talk about that for days. But what you started on and what you do as a profession, but you also have these other jobs and other hats that you wear. So let's kind of connect the dots here. You've managed some really big ranches. You've met people across all the fields and all the different locations, but let's talk about some of your hunting experiences and kind of how, we know the childhood falling out of the makeshift blinds and stands, but, talk about as you started to go west, your pursuit. You said you love to hunt. Let's talk about mule deer.
I guess I'll back up a little bit on you. Like, I started guiding when I was 15. Right. And so, I started bouncing around home. I mean, growing up doing all that, I knew kind of the whole area of where everything was, and kind of knew where all the deer were. And I think the first time I got going with it is like some guy asked me to take him hunting and kill a deer, and I killed a pretty good deer for him, and he paid me. And so that was like, wow, this is awesome. I mean, I know I can make money doing this. This is cool. And when I was at college, I still kept guiding and doing all that. I still kept it going. Even in grad school, when I was getting my PhD, I made a deal with my professors. It was like, hey, I got to be done by a certain time so I can go back and guide and go doing all this. And obviously guiding in South Texas, and over time just kind of worked my way up through different things. But as I went into the mule deer deal, I guess I started that when I was about 18 or 19 with my dad and his friends. And the first time I went out west, my dad as a kid, I always watched my dad go to New Mexico and Colorado and just like clawing down I remember them driving off, packing all their tents up and everything else. Like, there was a group of them, and I was just like cry that I could not go do this. Yeah. And I think it was about, late high school that I finally got to go. And the first time I went out there, just completely overwhelmed. I mean, completely. Walls, coveralls, hot 1 minute, cold the next, about died, I mean, I think a 3x9 scope on my gun. I don't even know if I owned a rangefinder at the time, to be honest with you. I don't think I did. Or if I did, I didn't have it in my binoculars because that was way out of budget. Yeah. But, I really got hooked on mule deer. It was a passion. Like, it was almost as bad as a kid praying for the big buck. That's how I'm going back. Yeah. And each time I went, I remember coming back the first time, I was so deflated because I did not kill anything. I think I was in New Mexico, and we're doing I drew a tag, doing it, do it yourself, just completely deflated. I mean, just ate my tag the whole way home, the longest drive of my life, I think, with my dad. I was just like, but the moment I got back, I remember I went and bought me a pair of Leica rangefinder binoculars.
Right. There's some value in these.
I need these. And then
that's where it starts. Oh my gosh.
It went from there. And after that, each time I went, I started going with my dad's friends more and more. Then I think it was my second trip. I was like, man, I need a turret on my gun. I need to figure out how to shoot further. I need to figure out how to get my ranges and everything like that. And I'll never forget, my dad's friends are like, what do you have all this stuff on you don't need it. I remember all my gear. I got rid of a bunch of my gear, got lighter stuff, got more, figured out what I needed. Yeah. And then as I killed a couple of good deer, and each time I went, I just really pushed myself And I got obsessed with it. I was later on in college, and even through on, I just kept studying maps, studying areas. I mean, I was just anything that I could absorb and take in.
Right.
I was all about it.
Right.
I mean,
You almost became a local up there.
Yes,
You're competing with the locals,
yes,
that's for sure.
It's exactly
Probably
what it
do your
was.
day.
I mean, and it kind of got to the point with that where I had people tell me, it's like, oh, it's not like you're ever going to kill those deer like those guys because they live up there in that area, which that just lit a whole nother fire.
Yeah.
And
Watch this.
Exactly. It's like, here we go. And I think I've never even told, but I think I have 2 off public land there over 200. So that I feel pretty confident. I'll brag about that.
One of the few people that gotten that one done.
And then over time, I mean, it got to the point where like I even had friends with points from other states start calling me and saying, hey, I know you know this area or that area. Have you researched it? I'm like, yeah, I know a little bit. And well, they started calling me, inviting me to their groups and asking me,
Hey, what mountain range should we go
exactly,
to? What do you think?
Exactly. Why don't you come with us this time? And it kind of got to be a joke. And it's like, hey, I'm the Flatlander from Texas going to hunt with y'all. And that was another thing I figured out real quick is I better be a little bit more in shape.
Yeah.
You know, you
100%.
figured that out.
Pretty humbling climbing up those mountains.
Oh yeah, it was. And each time you go out west, I mean, if you're not learning something, you're kind of living under a rock on that deal.
Oh, that terrain is about as humbling as it gets.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's like just the endless pursuit of like gear and just trying to learn more. And it's just everything about going out west, especially coming from where we're from. It's just like everything's so new. Every new state you go into, a little bit more to learn.
It's foreign. It really is to everything of what we do down here. We go up with private land of, hey, hoping we get in, either somebody owns a piece of property, you get invited to a piece of property, you're sitting in a blind over a feeder and everything else. To get thrown into that, it's just like, it just knocks you back into different deal. And I can relate to a lot of people because a lot of people, they want to go hunt now. And, and you go out there one time and you have that experience, or you look up on a mountain range and there's like, it looks like a Christmas tree because there's so much orange up there on the side of the mountain from other hunters. Right. And, you learn from it. And, I got into a couple deals where I was hunting the same deer as some governor tags guys were. So it was kind of cool.
You were in
it was
the same ranges and areas.
I knew I was in the right spot and I knew I was doing the right things. When you start talking to the guides and they're bumping into you and you're like, hey, what are you doing here? And it's like, well, probably the same thing you're doing here. So,
I've seen him before too.
So, then you start knowing you're like, hey, I'm in the right spot here.
That's a cool thing.
And it takes a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of research. There's a lot of different avenues to it.
Right. And I think that's what people need to lean into and understand. It's like until you have, and I know we said it a few times, but when you DIY it, it can be awesome, right? You've had some great DIYs. But you could also say how many empty tags you've had. And what is now that you have kids and you've gotten a little older, it's like success matters a little bit more. My time, I have less time to get out in the field. I remember one hunting season, I logged like 26 days before, I was married and all that kind of stuff. And I loved every second of it.
Oh, yeah.
And now I'm like, 26 days, there's 0% chance I'm going to have 26 days.
You're hoping for 2.
Right, exactly. So you're like, all right, 3 to 5 day windows. And, I just think as you get older, you have more responsibility, more jobs, more hats. And so it's like leaning into guys like you. If we're, I already have a couple hunts that we're going to go on together, but it's like, man, I need to maximize this time and this value, and I think that's what people lean into you for.
No, and I appreciate you saying that. It's I keep a sack of tags that I ate in my drawer in my office.
So it doesn't burn at all. They're just
it's a sack. So and it's one of those deals. It is time nowadays, and that's where over time it kind of backing up a little bit for all these ranches and stuff that I've managed and everything like that, and the connections you make through it all. That's kind of how it all started with this hunting side of it. Yes, I knew Texas. I know how to set up your ranch. I know how to get your animals to where they need to be. Mm-hmm. I know, what avenues you need to take. I even need to tell you what contractors you need to do. And it kind of rolls over into this hunting the same way. All these people that trust me to do that started asking me questions about, hey, where do I hunt? How did you do that? Where did you go? What outfitter to go? And you nailed it with that. Time is probably the most valuable thing for everybody now. Mm-hmm. And when they go do something, it's y'all too as well. I mean, you have kids. I mean, it's in businesses. I mean, it's hard to get away in time. And, as I grew up and realized, I always thought everybody knew what I knew about it and, the outdoors. And I was probably naive, I guess, in that regard to say that, hey, everybody understands this. And I just started growing and researching and putting people in contact with the right people. And every time people would come back to me and they'd be like, man, that is awesome. That is like one of the best experiences I ever had. And it was my wife one day. She was like, why don't you start doing more of this? Obviously, you're still going to focus and do all your management and wildlife biology practices, but why don't you start helping people do this and setting them up in the right area? Obviously, you do it to make money as well. But with that being said, I try to look and talk to a guy the same way I would talk to him about a ranch.
Right.
Develop a relationship with him, establish goals, figure out parameters, figure out like, hey, what are you capable of? Certain people don't want to hike to the top of Mount Everest. Some people don't. They want a different
keep those binos down, buddy. We're going to stay on the flat ground.
Just because you don't want to hike in the mountains doesn't mean you can't mule deer hunt.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't do, whatever hunt you want. And, and the price of things dictates a lot of things for people. It scares people off. People watch social media and they think, oh man, this is way out of my budget. There's no way I can achieve this. There's no way I can do it. There's so many different avenues for people to look at and go into. I mean, it's
a trust factor though too, right? You got to have the right people, right? Because we've all signed up for something, tag wasn't filled or animals on the property weren't up, what you were promised or whatever, and we always want fair chase and all those kind of things, but also opportunity.
Exactly.
You got to present opportunities and people been burned and then they're like, man, I need help in this.
And that's where people like where I come in. And I take great pride in that is, I want to vet every person, the hunter and the outfitter that I'm sending them to, where I feel confident. Number one, they have the type of animals they're going after. Yeah. Obviously, things happen. You don't kill your animal every single time. Right. But for the most part, I want that experience and them to have every opportunity capable to be successful.
Right.
And that's the main focus there. Whether their equipment's right, their gear to, just them being in physical enough shape, and them to know exactly what the hunt entails.
Right.
And, a lot of people, it's a tough business. I mean, there's a lot of people, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. I mean, it's a tough business. People get promised things and not delivered. Yeah. And that's probably the scariest thing for people because a lot of people are saving up their money.
Right. They're 5, 6 years, 8 years holding on to something. I really want to go do this.
I mean, and I hate to say it, I've been that guy. Right. I've been that guy that's been taken advantage of. And I've seen it. And I guess that probably more than anything, little bit of this fire, because it's like you don't like seeing that. Right. Like it's a great deal when y'all's guys come back to y'all and tell you your gun shot great or whatever. It's a compliment to you, and it's the same way with this. Whether they harvest the animal of their dreams, they have a great experience, they take their kid hunting. Right. Yeah. We do everything now from taking your family hunting to huge corporate events to the guy that's wanting to kill, record-breaking animals. Right. I mean, you name it, we
tags to DIY in the right areas and knowing the right guides and the cancellations that are on a fly. I mean, you have access to crazy amounts.
Exactly. We have guys trying to buy governor's tags, and from guys wanting to spend $6,500 to $10,000 and saving up for 10 years to go and maximize that $10,000 where they can kill like something that they're trying to achieve. And they're like myself. I killed a desert bighorn. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that I was going to kill a desert bighorn.
Right. Yeah.
But due to the connections and going through and working different angles, I was able to achieve that. And other people can achieve that. Right. And, and people, I've heard podcasts before where people say that, and, I was one of those guys like, yeah, whatever. Mm-hmm. But no, it is angles. I mean, you talk and you work through things. You figure out where to go, what to put in for. There's just tons of opportunities out there in the hunting industry, whether you're going after a governor's tag or you're down here saying, hey, you know what?
I want to kill all the mule deer in, Utah, Colorado.
Exactly.
I want to check all the boxes.
Or, hey, I want to do a moose hunt, but I can't spend $45,000 what a moose hunt costs now. Well, there's other options out there. Yeah. And it opens the door for people where they can go in and, feel like they can go and enjoy the outdoors and not just be like, hey, I have to be one of these guys that's spending a lot of money in conservation to be able to enjoy the outdoors or whatever. Right. I mean, that's a great industry to be in, and that's awesome that people are able to do that and support these wildlife programs and do that. But also, too, there's a lot of middlemen guys like the rest of us that, hey, you know what?
I want to go with a good
What's
group
the
of
best
buddies.
bang for my
What's
buck?
my best bang for the
Yeah.
buck? Time of year, short runs. I can't go for 14 days.
Exactly.
You know, that kind of
exactly.
stuff. And there's a lot of mix and match there.
It's kind of like what you talked about. I mean, when you and I were talking about, you're like, what's the best value hunt?
Yeah.
And I think you probably fact checked me a little bit, which I'm glad you did. Yeah. But no, I mean, you were on a hunt and you asked the guy, I mean, he's gone, bought governor's tags and everything else. And you ask him, what's the best value for your hunt? And I think he quoted that exact hunt.
Right.
And that made me feel good that
Because we're on the same page. Yeah.
Exactly.
And y'all had never spoken before.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, just a little backstory on that. I met a guy in a camp and we were, hunting mule deer and, just felt like, I'm going to ask this guy. This guy's hunted all over. He's, sheep slams and, he hunted in, Austria and all over and killed Marco Polo, et cetera. And I'm like, hey, man, what's your favorite hunt? What's the best bang for your buck? And he's like, man, I've had governor tags filled in Oregon and, in New Mexico and all these kind of things. But those bundled deals, where you can get your first sheep and maybe potentially a moose or a caribou and kind of a 7 to 10 day deal. And that was just fascinating to me. I was like, I didn't even know there's hunts like that, and then to call you up like a couple days later, I'm like, hey man, like what's good value, right? Kind of set you up for failure. And you're like, man, I'll tell you what, there's a really cool hunt up in, British Columbia or whatever. And so I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool that two people had never spoken before see what value is on people, not only on time, but opportunity, right? Like you can get two people to go with you. It can be a group deal of one guy's hunting each animal and et cetera. So it kind of gives you some flexibility. And then also the rarity of even getting in that terrain.
Yes, and that's the thing. I mean, me going to Alaska opened my eyes to a lot of that. It's like we did the whole out west mule deer, and in this, down here, and you kind of developed and you figured that out. But like once you go really somewhere different, remote, if you're going to Turkey but for me it was Alaska opened my eyes to like, that's when this whole deal with like helping people and doing stuff of like, I watched people in Alaska show up when I was up there. They didn't have the right type of boots.
Yeah.
They didn't have the right type, it was very, very eye-opening just how remote you are, how dependent you are on your gear, how dependent you are on the person who sets you up on this. Because when you're in the airport in Alaska and everybody's walking by you and they're like, we never saw a moose or we never saw a bear.
I'm just ready to go home.
You're like, this is not good.
Right.
But in this case, that's where it really opened my eyes to what you just said of like value and, making sure somebody knows like, hey, we've got your back on this.
Right.
Like we're like, I feel so confident in the guys that I work with and refer that, everybody always wants me to go now.
Yeah.
They always want me there. The validation,
Right.
hey,
They're
you
like, no,
make
trust
sure,
me.
make sure you're there. Like really and truly, any guy that I send them with, I feel so confident in them that I don't need to be there every time.
Right.
But, my wife probably wish I wouldn't be there all the time.
There's some that you enjoy also, though. Getting up and going into Alaska or whatever. Like I feel like there's some that you're like, man, I still love coming up in this country.
Absolutely. I really enjoy it. Like I probably enjoy that more than anything is like when somebody's like worked really hard or saved up to get to that point to go do their dream hunt. It's just something special about it. And, and it kind of rewinds a little bit to me of like when I first started, like I was managing a large ranch and a guy had me setting up his personal hunts and plus his clients' hunts and, for just stuff outside of Texas. Mm-hmm. And when you start doing that for people and watching people achieve something that they never thought was remotely possible, it's a special place for you. 100%. It makes you feel good as a person.
100%. So let me just, all of us have walked through like a floor, right? I know Dallas Safari Club's in Atlanta now, but will be for the next couple of years. But we've all walked that floor. It can be overwhelming for any consumer, right? Like you said, the Africa experience. You're like, oh my gosh, there's 80 potential outfitters. How do I sift through what's
put the
good,
name in the
what's
hat.
bad, and this guy seems nice, and then you get into the all the mule deer opportunities, the Alaska hunts, the British Columbia, and so. I guess, in a roundabout way, what you're kind of creating is kind of sifting through a potential large event, large outfitters, and you're kind of filtering through, which I think is kind of a huge thing in the industry. It needs to kind of be a more known aspect, because it's like, man, I can make a single call and a lot of things like get solved for me. And I know a lot of people lean into you for that.
Yeah. I probably should advertise more. I probably should put myself out there more, but it's just, I haven't, and it's been busy. It's been good, but I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I would say is, hey, come to me, come talk to me.
Oh, well, like just the story you told me, yesterday when we were having dinner or whatever, but just the guy that calls you on a whim you hadn't spoken to, and it was a 3-minute conversation. I won't ruin it for you, but tell me that story.
Yeah, we were in there, and he calls me up, and he was asking me about this moose hunt that I'd been on and another guy had been on, and he was like, hey, book it. And I'm like, excuse me? And he was like, I trust you. I was telling him about it, and he was like, man, I don't need to hear about it. Just book it. And literally, we talked more about, like, as far as what he needed to bring than him even worrying about booking it. I really had never met this guy before in my life. And he got referred through a friend of mine. Yeah. And his quote was, if he likes it and he trusts you, I trust you.
Right.
Yeah. And he booked it.
Yeah.
And, and going back to what you said about the floor and the show, everything, Brooks, I mean, I feel sorry for people at a hunting show, like the African side of it.
Oh, man.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
It's brutal. I mean, because it's like you walk through there and there's every other booth is an African outfitter. And it's like every person is trying to get your attention. And you really can't have a meaningful conversation with anybody, because it's so many people around you. I mean, like, we work with some great people from Africa that separate themselves so much from everybody else, that, and same way in other industries, whether it's Mexico, whether it's Alaska, whether it's British Columbia, whether
it's hard to tell in a 5-minute conversation.
I mean, like, how can they differentiate themselves from you, even in a 20-minute conversation?
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to promise you something, and they're going to
Yeah, it's like that third-party validation, right? Like someone else sticking their neck out for some other outfitter that's been vetted. Like, it just feels nice, like your story earlier of just, two people that don't know each other come to the same conclusion. Like, that's such a big deal for someone just trying to get educated in something.
I think most people will tell you that do shows. Yeah, some of them, some of your, huge organizations, they're just worldwide known. I mean, they do pretty good at shows, but I think 95% of it is validation.
Yeah.
It's about having a relationship with something. If you come and hunt with me, whoever you bring, Brooks, is going to trust me because they trust you. And that's how this whole industry works. It's like, I think the whole connections, the relationships you have, everybody wants to say they have a relationship, but like, till you truly can sit down and talk to somebody and look them in the eye, and you just truly have that connection with them where you're like, hey, I've got your best interest at heart here. I'll help you out any way I can. And, and there's times I tell people, I don't like anything right now. Yeah. It's just not out there. And, and like some of these hunts that we're getting into, I mean, we're chasing a different ball game now. I think, how far are you booked out? 5 years?
Yeah.
I mean,
But I didn't even know that, though. And completely honestly, I didn't know that some of these tags and contacts, if you don't know someone like you don't get the tag. No. Like, it is never available.
Yeah, you can't cold call somebody.
I'm not a cold call, and they're like, yeah, who are you? You're not coming.
You don't even know the right questions to ask.
I'm like, how big is he? I don't know I don't know anything about him.
It's like a lot of our stuff, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, it's a good point. I mean, it's like we have a lot of tags in-house that are like the outfitters, they know I'm going to book them.
Yeah.
And so they give me first shot at them.
Right.
And they have, I may have 3 weeks with one guy, and I may have a week over here, and I may have 2 weeks over here with something else.
Right. Yeah.
Well, they're giving me first shot because, number one, we're vetting the clients for them. We're not sending them some Joe Blow. Right. The clients know what they're going to get when they get there. They're going to have a good experience, and they know that, hey, we're taking care of them from start to finish.
Gotcha. Well, not to cut you off there, but just to elaborate on that, like, that's what I found so attractive. Obviously, I always enjoy hunting with Cory. We love glassing together, and the stalks that we've had, et cetera. So it's like, I've already tried to like create these small fun groups, adding a wild card or two, a funny guy and some, serious people. And like, I love that interaction. I love sitting at the table. I love sitting around the fire. I love doing all those things. Obviously, I love waking up early in the morning and going hunting and not knowing what you're going to see that day.
Yeah.
But it's these groups like you're talking about, and that's something that you've kind of developed over a period of time. I'm like, man, 4 to 6 guys in a group hunting together, enjoying it, and then just the repeat like enjoyment
year
and
after
plan.
year.
It's almost like a vacation for these guys.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we do. It's like we try to fill up, like a lot of these, when we have a week on certain deals, we'll fill that whole week with 6 guys. And maybe it's 6 guys that we know, or we have 2 groups that I'm like, that group of guys will fit in together well. They'll enjoy each other's company. And most of them that we've even combined in the future, now they come together automatically. So they're all friends now. Right. So they have their weeks. And most of this stuff, nobody gives their week up now.
Right.
That's the problem we have is, trying to get more weeks or more areas. And that's the hardest thing, is getting people to realize, hey, the market is scarce.
Right.
It's not just, you have to be pretty proactive. You have to know somebody. It's most of the cases are just, you're not going to call up and find the dream hunt just off making a phone call. Right. If somebody has something left over, generally it's probably not the best scenario. Some of your better stuff, it's booked out in advance. I hate to say that, and you have to and it goes back to what we said. You have to have a plan. You have to have a goal. You have to look at long-term into it.
Patience, investment, long-term goals. How do I kind of work my way into this opportunity kind of deal?
Exactly. And what, and some people say, hey, I have X to spend. What's the best value? I'm like, well, the best value is X. Yeah. And you need to be, in 2027, they're going to have some spots. I suggest saving your money and going there, because that's your best investment and your best bang for your buck, and you're going to achieve your goal of what you're wanting to go after. And, it kind of goes in with these bigger groups. We do the corporate groups. We've done, up to like 100 people on different hunts, whether it be dove hunts to whether it be, just individual hunts per person, setting up different events for them,
which
and
is
so on and
super
so
cool.
forth.
That's what everybody wants, right?
Yeah.
Like a bird bash or whatever you call it right out of the gate. Start your whole September off and roll.
Yeah, old Paloma Pachanga.
Oh, man, light them up. Light them up 50 yards apart. Make sure you don't pepper the guy next to you,
And that too, I mean, you try to get out there, and we try to create something with all these places that I've noticed is the accommodations and the staff of creating like an elite and over-the-top experience for people. Most people don't realize is like doing these trips, you can take your wife. Yeah. I think you are probably going to take your wife on.
I'm not getting enough off days. I got to find some wife-friendly hunts for sure.
But, I mean, all these are like, they're not just a hunting trip on a lot of cases. Mm-hmm. It's a recreation. It's a vacation, virtually what it is. Yeah. I mean, from wineries to, so on and so forth. I mean, spas and everything else. I mean, we can pretty well tailor and tee it up to whatever you want to do. Yeah. Obviously, Alaska, it's going to be tough to get a spa. But,
you get a cold
plunge. Hey, you got cold plunge. That's a big thing now.
You can get a cold plunge if you want. But no,
I think another cool thing, just by like talking to you about most of this stuff, is really diving into maybe species that I don't know a ton about, but like you're so passionate about it. So like giving you a price range of things you're looking for. And like a lot of like what we personally are trying to do is go find experiences. Like I want to go experience Alaska or different types of terrain or going to New Zealand, hunting tar, like just all these different aspects. And you going like, oh, that's what you're after. There's this hunt that's really cool. And there's this type of species. And you're like, man, I know what they are. I just never thought that was something that I would do, but then you start talking about the experience and what it's all like. That's a cool angle that you've kind of talked about, just all the different species that,
Yeah, there's a lot of things out there. It's like, obviously everybody knows sheep, moose, and all that, but like I'll bring one of them up, like black-tailed deer. Mm-hmm. Most people like getting to go on that experience, whether you're going to Kodiak or whether you're going to the West Coast or something like that. It's just a really cool hunt. I mean, Cory and I were together, and we talked about the guys from New Zealand doing the tar and doing the backcountry tar hunt. Not not necessarily out of the helicopter, but doing the hiking and the tar hunt. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of hunts out there that are great experience hunts that aren't break the bank hunts. Mm-hmm. That it's just having the outdoor experience, killing or harvesting a great animal, I guess you could say. And, just having those experirides, whether it's...
You'll never forget climbing that mountain in New Zealand.
Exactly. And whether it's backcountry in a tent camp or staying in a cabin or, staying on a boat, being a yacht boat-based hunt or whatever. And that, hey, during the middle of the day, we're going to go, fish, or we're going to go hunt ducks and so on and so forth.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it's just, there's a lot of neat valued hunts. And like we could sit here all day long and talk about all the different species that are out there. But, Texas offers a lot of things, obviously, with this exotic market. But there's just a lot of stuff out there that you can dive into in the States and outside the States. Right. It doesn't break the bank. Right. I wish more people would know about, because it's not every hunt has to cost $20,000. Yeah. Obviously the market, it's pretty strong right now with everything going on, and you watch these auction tags and everything else, and you kind of
don't start drinking and get online and those auctions. I can tell you that.
You kind of get overwhelmed with it, and you're like, "There's no way I'm going to do this." Right. You get like, that's where I come in. I mean, like I get phone calls from guys on cancellations. I get phone call guys from, just hunts that, hey, we got a new area, that most people don't know about. It's just like, I had a friend call me the other day on a mountain goat hunt, and he's like, man, hey, we're opening up a new mountain goat area. You ought to check this out. It's going to be really good. Or a new moose area, or a new blacktail area. All these areas open up and change over time. And unless you're connected with these people and have a relationship, let's be honest, they're going to call the people that they are connected with first. Right. You're not going to just the guy calling off the street. They're not going to fill them in on that type of information. And and that's where we come in with what we try to do, and try to make it more powerful for people, and like get them in areas that, hey, maybe haven't been touched or hunted as much, or so on and so forth.
I could see a lot of outfitters over time too, the showing, going to shows and traveling all over the States, et cetera, and standing in booth for 3 or 4 days and not really having a lot of contacts, and the cost that it has to have a booth in all that space. You could see guys, start just calling, guys like yourself, as you grow and chase this, it's like, man, this guy has the clientele list. He is already vetted and set me up and whatever. It's like, man, I'm gonna stop traveling. I'm gonna start investing in this guy, and this guy's gonna. That's why you get rut hunts and cool experiences like that. I feel like that's kind of needs to be said and connected. It's like, this guy's done more for my business than driving all over the States.
And a lot of guys have slowed down on their shows, and they work with guys like myself, and they'll say, hey, if you can fill this whole week for me, it would help me out. And
and next year and the year after that.
And once you fill 1 week with them, then it kind of opens up into, can you fill 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think I can. And if it's the right experience, absolutely, why wouldn't somebody want to go? I mean, it's like with what we're all going to do together. I mean, we've lined stuff up, and those hunts are not break the bank hunts. I mean, these are fun hunts. And, most people, when you come back from those hunts, they're like, wow, that's really cool. Yeah. I mean, it's like Coues deer. Yeah. I mean, we're all talking about Coues deer.
I'm going. There ain't no doubt.
And most people overlook it, and there's some great areas that you can get into, and that's an awesome hunt. And it's an unbelievable hunt.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're about the experience and those kind of types of really difficult animals to hunt, and a little smaller frame, like that only just equates to harder to hunt. So if you enjoy that aspect of it all, that's super enjoyable.
Exactly. And I kind of see a little bit of a movement with it. It's, more people I think are starting to see value in hunts and what to go do. It's like duck hunting. Somebody asked me the other day, they're like, man, duck hunting's really blown up. And I was like, well, I don't know if it's blown up, but I think it's a valued hunt, and it's fun for people to be able to enjoy it without breaking the bank. Yeah. And, I think there's a reason you've seen people get into thermal hunting with coyotes and so on. So
experience, right? Yeah. Experience, uniqueness, never heard of it, never tried it.
The predator side of it, right. It just, there's a lot of doors that you can open up and go hunt. And there's so many different classes of hunts you can go on. And I guess we could sit here for hours and talk about them, and I'm not going to bore you with it, but, there's just, you have a budget, we can find you something to go hunt and have a really awesome experience. No doubt. I mean, and it doesn't necessarily have to go say you're killing the biggest and trying to kill the world record, but you can go have a really awesome experience and be proud of what you've been able to harvest and been able to go do. And whether it's with your kids, whether it's with, business, whether it's with your family, I mean, that's kind of what we want to go after. I mean, we want to be the guys you come to and feel like, we know they have us covered. We know we're going to make it successful. I mean, I had a client this year, he went on a last minute doll hunt, and he was in a really rough area that had to die off, like a really rough area. And after the fact, I had a cancellation tag that year, and he got back. Luckily he got one, but it was down, I think, it was pretty rough. And like I told him, I was like, why didn't you call and tell me? And he took a cancellation as well. I was like, I had one. I could have lined you up. And after that, he's like, I'll never do that again. Because he said, if I didn't get lucky and get that done, he said, I would have lost a lot of money on
Right,
this
that would
deal.
hurt. Yeah, that would have hurt bad. Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, I know we can do this for days, and I know that we need to have you back for sure to talk more on the expertise and experience. But thank you for being on the show. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to learn a lot from all that, and I have for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been awesome. Just kind of diving into some of the, the hunting side, but also the wildlife stuff. Like, just fascinating how it's not just about deer; it's about habitat, and and how you increase one thing that you think may not be related, how it just kind of all benefits the land and all the wildlife on it. So,
yeah, I appreciate y'all having me, and we really try to cover the full gamut with everything that we do, and try to take it to the next level, and really work with our landowners and work with our clients to make sure that everyone's successful and everybody's happy. And thank for what y'all are trying to do and what y'all are doing here with the podcast and y'all's gun company. Congratulations, y'all really knocking it out of the park, tying it all in with all these hunts and everything like that, and relating to all this. I mean, I think it's going to be pretty powerful for people in y'all's community and y'all's area and stuff, for kind of seeing what all y'all are doing and all the opportunities that y'all have to offer for them.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just trying to get as many good people in the room to kind of present the floor of like, these are trustworthy people. This is what we're passionate about. Obviously, my handshake is everything to me. That's kind of what we built our company on. We recognize in what you do, and anybody that we're kind of associated. There's a vetting process. There's a trust me because I trust this guy, and kind of this network. There's so many people that want to hunt and have success, but also want good gear. I wanted to circle back. I was mad I didn't, but just on the gear stuff, like, you can go, there's a progression. Your first binoculars you buy, your first, I need a tripod, I need a bipod. And but the hunts, it does the same.
Exactly.
I grew up hunting in South Texas. I mean, I will be the first to tell you, nothing got me going. I had buck fever as much as anybody, right? In the morning, I'm ready to go, right? And then as you're like, okay, I love whitetail. I love what they bring. What else is out there?
You want to go that next level.
Yeah, I want to. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? Because it's like, it's not just a deer head on the wall for me. It never has been, a trophy, what it scores. Yes, does everybody want to kill good deer? Absolutely. Everybody want to have the biggest ram in the room? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it's like, who did you do it with?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Did you have fun in the experience? Would you go back?
Exactly.
And I've had enough bad experiences, and I don't want that. And that's what we're kind of seeking out, and people like yourself.
I appreciate that. I really do.
Yeah. So thanks again, guys, for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.